Welcome everybody. It is Art Tool Tip Tuesday. My name is Wendy and you're watching Wendy Makes Art. I'm so glad you're here tonight. So a couple quick housekeeping things. Let's see. Art Tip Tuesdays, we go over tips, tricks, fun, different techniques. I try to just teach you anything I know. So one of my students asked about roses last weekend in class. We had done a basic tutorial. I'm going to go over that again on just the basic concepts so that you can understand consistency of paint from tea all the way to butter. And then we're also going to dive in and practice painting some roses. So I have a whole bunch of roses sitting in front of me. I'll bring some right here for you to see. So pretty, right? I mean, they look really gorgeous right under the camera. And so we'll kind of go through that and go through some different techniques. We'll see how long I last. I have been very sick and I have not been on much because of that. So I may need to rest if I start coughing, and we'll go from there. So thanks for joining. Let's see, we are starting out, let's start out, I'll just leave these sitting here for right now. We're trying a new brush tonight. I do have favorite brushes. I try a bunch of different brushes, but I wanted to try, this is a new, set it up here, Da Vinci Casaneo it's called, and this is a number 2. I believe it's a synthetic squirrel if I were to guess. It's not a mop, it's more like a synthetic squirrel. And I'm looking for a comparable one to my favorites, which is this line of quills that are from Jackson's Art. So I love these brushes. This is a 330. I use these. I can do an entire painting with one of these. Here's a 0, which is a size I really love. There's my 0 with the quill, and they hold up well. They're synthetic, they hold up well. I can they're not expensive, they're very inexpensive, but they do come from England, and so I want to really try to make sure that I'm getting things here, because I don't know how long we're going to be able to get stuff from overseas. So these are the ones that I love, the Jackson synthetic quills, and this is a comparable that I'm testing out called Da Vinci Cosmo. We're going to play with these tonight. So let's dive into the basics. I pulled some Winsor & Newton watercolors, just a set. This was a gifted set that my brother gave me, and what I did was I looked at my color chart, looked at my roses, and narrowed it down. Now this is not an exact match, and you don't have to have an exact match. I pulled the permanent rose, which is this color right here, and we could just do flowers with that. And then the lemon Winsor, because I can see in these a little touch of yellow and a little tiny touch of green. And of course I have a bigger bouquet that has leaves. So you see that? So we've got some leaves going on in here, and so I pulled the permanent sap. And to darken things up, the ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna. We're going to start with just a simple exercise and talk about paint consistency from tea to butter and what that means. So I'm just going to open this up and put a couple dabs of this rose in here. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Now you can get really technical with this and use a pipette like this, and you can do drops of water. So you could say, okay, in this one I'm going to have 2 drops. In this one I'm going to do 4, 6, 8, and then we're going to put a whole bunch of water over here. Okay, so it's really up to you on how far you want to nerd out on your drops. what you start with is you first want a really dark, really rich color, and that is going to be your thickest. It has the most pigment. You'll see there's hardly any water in there. All I'm doing is basically using the water to kind of move that color around a little bit. So we've got a nice thick puddle of paint on this one. And then our next one, we want it looser. Now that doesn't have enough pigment in it yet. This is nice. It's looser than this one. There's still a lot of color in it, but it's not as thick as this one. And here we are on this one. I'm just transferring these paints over to these different puddles. Okay, and then a really thin wash over here. Now we can test these, and once you paint a lot, you'll be able to tell the difference quickly just working with the paints. Okay, so if I do a little swatch over here, here's my really thin one. See how light and pink it is? Now let's go to the next one. Look, darker. And I'm not sure if these two have enough of a difference, but we're going to try it. Pretty good. Yeah, those two are very close. So I could even put a little more paint in this one. There we go. And then your thickest one, which isn't quite thick enough, is going to be that one. So you'll see the values go from dark down to light just by the amount of water you have. And you can kind of see the puddles get more shallow as I go towards that butter level versus the tea. It just has a little tint in it up here. Now the beauty of this tea is look how close that looks to the color of these roses. It's really, really close. So from here, we go in, and what we're going to do is just the simple concept of a rose and looking at a rose. Let me put one of these up here so you can kind of see looking down on it. There's a pretty good idea. Okay. And the idea is that if you are first playing with this and working with value and richness of color, is you're going to go in here and build these petals around here, get bigger and lighter with each one you do. And it's a real simple little, look at that. You just kind of make it thinner each time. And I can go even thinner still. Did you see that? This is a great tool for you to play with your brushes. Play with making those marks. How do you make them big and little and push that brush down as you go around the circle? It's a real simple little tool for a simple little rose, okay? Now, we're going to play a little bit with painting more of a, let's paint more of a realistic rose. Let's try to duplicate something, maybe this one up here, and I'll kind of pay attention to what is going on up here. And I'm going to need a little more of this pigment because I want it rich. And I think this is kind of where the class was stuck on what do we do next, okay? This is more of a decorative or a way to play. And you have a lot of options to do within this. Like you can go in here and say, okay, well, I know that this is going to get a lot darker right in there and add more pigment. Do you see that? How nice and rich it gets? Maybe right in here. I can go in and darken that. And I'm really looking at where's the light, where the highlights, where the darkness. okay? Kind of shadows down towards the bottom there, right there. Okay. And then I'm building all those little white edges. So you just leave your white edges, and you can kind of see it start to take shape and form. Now this is not an exact match to what's in front of me. It's just a loose, genuine idea of it, but it still looks like a rose, right? I mean, that looks pretty much like a rose. So the next step that you can do from that, let's talk about that a little bit. So you saw we started out, and what we're doing is letting this color, the tea to the butter, crawl into each other. Now I'm going to take a little tiny bit, and I'm just going to mix it on this plate so I don't have too much going on, of blue. I've got deeper, darker colors. If I look in here, like look in there, do you see it gets a little deeper, a little darker? There's some edges. So the easiest way for me to mix that is to take a little bit of ultramarine, and it's almost like a purple color, right? And now I'm going to go in and go, okay, well, where does that sit? Maybe it's like way in the middle, down in here. Okay, could be a little bit on these edges, right like that. And I'm just letting it, this is still a little bit wet, what I'm painting into, which is nice because I can just touch the edge and paint just the edge, and then I'm not gonna mess around with it too much. Like I won't rub it too much or try to move it too much. I just kind of touch that edge and then let it dissolve into that rose petal. So I'm picking up some color. I'm touching it wherever I think that there might be a shadow area. I'm not going to go too nuts with it, just deep down in there. And then even in the center of this rose, look at this, right in here. It gets really nice and dark in there. And I'll put that there. So it's looking pretty good, right? We've got the general sense of what's in front of us, and the idea of it. Okay. Now I also see a little tiny touch here and there of yellow and green, and you can play with some of that if you want. I'm going to put just a tiny, tiny touch of this. I don't want too much yellow. And same with green. A little tiny bit. Okay. So I clean my brush, I wiped it off, and I've got quite a bit of water, and I'm just going to get a little teeny itsy tiny touch of the yellow, and maybe even a little tiny touch of that green. Just a tint. Okay? Because I can see on some of these, like this one actually, it doesn't have a hard edge. It kind of melts in to a white yellow petal edge. So I can lift and move around some of that to soften it and kind of hint that a little bit. I'm just kind of playing with that. Once that dries, another thing that you can do to show where those petals are, the best way to show white is to add dark. So if I add some dark colors around that, we're going to be able to see white. So I'm going to come in here and maybe just do a little touch of color right in here. Not a lot. Okay. And we'll let this sit for a little bit. We do have, you know, I could indicate the idea of the stem that's down here. So I could take one of these and go, okay, well, I know that it would come off here and just be a little bit of a stem going on. And even playing with some of these yellow greens underneath this. Well, I'll let that travel a little bit so it makes it more interesting. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to tackle just painting a rose. Let's do something a little different. So this one started as a simple, just little hooks hooking into each other, then thinning out the paint as we went around. Let's play with just looking at what do we see? What do I see going on here? How would I really tackle that? Okay, I would, again, start with the center. That's the best, easiest way for me to start. So if I come up in here, let me turn this so that you guys can see everything. I would go, okay, I know there's a dark little section right in here. Okay. But then around it, what do I have? I know there are some little white areas. Doesn't have to be perfect, because unless you hand them a photo, your viewer will not see what you worked from. So they will not see the exact petal and the exact rose that you worked from unless you show it to them. Okay, so that piece, I'm looking at shapes. This is a shape. This comes in here like a triangle. It comes and curls around a little bit right there. That should come in there. There's a sharp little piece right here. And a little section right there. And at some point you will most likely get lost. It happens to me all the time. Just keep going. Okay, so here's a petal. And then there's a triangle shape in here. And then underneath this one, there's one that goes in here. Okay. And a bigger shape that comes under here. So I've thinned my paint. It's more of a tea consistency. It's lighter. Probably not as light as I'd like it to be, but it is lighter. And I'm coming over here. And there's another little part right there. And then we've got a section in here. So one last little area right here. Now, this is the same thing. I mean, you made these triangle shapes. It matches. This is teeny tiny compared to the flower because it's so close to you. It matches pretty much what you see above there. Put this little leaf in right here. Okay, and then there's a big one that comes out. And work that brush shape. Make sure that you're using that brush to make your shapes. And there you go with that. So we've got the idea of it. And now we're going to start to put the shadows in, darken where it's dark. So just like before, look, I'm touching the inside of this. It gets really nice and dark in there. And it might even need a little bit of blue. And I'm gonna, okay, that goes right inside that deep edge right there. This one, this may have an edge in there like that. Look right here. Let's get some blue and make some purple and make it nice and dark down towards that part. Right over here. It's nice and dark right in there. A little line right there. Little section in here. And there's a shadow, so that would be shaped like that. And even in here, a little bit. The best I can tell you is that you're looking for darks and lights and how they roll together. And you're working with your values. I'm going to come in here. I want this to be really interesting. Put some marks on it. There's even some that comes back out here. Okay. And like I said up here, do you remember when I said if you need your petal shape, you can darken around it. So if I look at this area right here, what color is that? It's like a really neutral color. It's more like a brownish kind of gray brown, like that. So to mix that color, and I can form the edges of a leaf and show where it is just by putting a neutral in around it. So I'm just jumping up here to kind of show you guys this. Now this has more than one thing going on. There's a lot going on here, but it'll give you the idea. Of the area around the rose that then tells you where the rose is. Here, I'll go ahead and I'll just, even though that's not exact, gives you the right idea. Mixing a neutral. And I can put color in here. Kind of let that crawl around. But by going around your colors, you can get that idea of the leaf, where the leaf is. kind of give you an idea. I don't feel better, Annie C. I'm having a rough couple days. I almost didn't come on tonight, but I had put a little announcement out that I was going to be on tonight, so I didn't want to not show up after posting on social media that I was going to be here. So kind of just said, okay, well, let's just be crazy. And it's already 7:30. I don't know if I'll even make it the whole show. I'm going to try to get the rest of this and then probably lay down and rest. So this one is just a little more organized, a little neater than this one. This one, as you can see, I'm leaving the white where those white edges are. I put the pink in and then I started adding darker areas and just letting it travel through each other. I'm kind of looking to see where it's easy to get lost in these, especially with me jumping around like I am. Okay, I want to do one that's a little more fun abstract too for you. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to let's see what we can do with just some mark making, just playing with rolling the brush around, working on shapes. And we'll see what we can get with this. So same rows, I'm just kind of going in and loosely interpreting the area and the shapes. And it's pretty much going to be the same thing. I mean, we're going to go in here. Once I create this form, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to start finding darker areas. Maybe it's in here. Maybe it's a little in here. And I just drop some stuff in it. Maybe it's right through here. This one is a little more loosey-goosey free form, but it's kind of fun to let the paint travel and do its thing. So look at that right there. The only thing about this one is I feel like I didn't leave enough little white areas. So I'm going to show you what we do in that case. And we're going to do some lifting and see what we can get with this painting. So first thing I'm going to do is wipe my brush. Clean it, wipe it, and then use it to pull some of that paint off of the palette or the paper. So my brush is clean, wet water, and I kind of push it down and I'm pulling up off of here. Same with here. I want some of this cleaned off of there. Now what about in here? And this is where a variety of brushes. I usually like to have one like this, like a 1/4 inch flat that is a synthetic. Looks like this. And now I can go in and really kind of go pick what I want to lift to build some petal shapes. So I know that I need to pull off paint. And I can really, depending on the paper, is how much you can remove and kind of work it. One of the things I like about this down here is just how soft it ends up flowing into each other. So I can even soften some of these lines in here. And it just makes for a softer rose. And then I can go in with darker color. For wherever I need those really dark, dark shadows. So like, I know it gets pretty dark in here. Right in there. All right. Right there. Great little streaks on these petals right here. Okay, so that kind of gives you the feel for what we're doing. And then real quick, I'm going to talk a little bit about leaves because I touched on it, and I'm just going to pull a leaf off here. Oh, here's one that doesn't even have a flower on it. It's just a stem, I think. That's hilarious. Yeah, I have just a stem. So we'll pull a stem out. These were pretty broken up. So check this out. Here's our leaf. I'll hold this up for you. Like that, okay? And the underside, look how light they are. So if you get two different places, if you turn it like this, so you can see the darker and the lighter right there. Okay, and lighten up a little bit some of these little areas in here. Okay, so let's kind of assume that our leaf is sticking out like that. Okay? All I'm doing is I'm taking that sap green, I'm going to mix some blue and darken it up. So I've got a little bit of pretty much all the colors. Okay. And look at this. I can just go simply, now they have all these little denty edges. That's a technical term there, right there. Denty edges. And we can go ahead and pretend like there is a denty edge leaf going on with this. Kind of needed it fatter. So just like that, we'll do that. And then maybe up here, we can pretend that there's one coming this way. and just let it sit underneath there. Just like that, all of a sudden, it's a little more believable, right? Maybe there's another one over here. And you see how when I go around that petal, all of a sudden you see the petal, because you can't see light without dark. So if you give it something dark, all of a sudden you're going to be able to see light. Just like that. Pretty, right? Now earlier we did part of like a little head that comes down in here, and I let it dry, and now I can put some darks underneath here to show some other shapes, just like that. Okay. All right, Peanut Gallery. I see you talking about me being sick. I see that. So I'm going to take a little bit of blue that's left over and just kind of indicate what we've got going on here with the jar. It's not blue enough. It's too purple. Okay, so big lesson. This is the biggest thing I could teach you guys. Don't ever be afraid to put out more paint. You're going to make mistakes if you get stingy. So just get your paint open and get it out. That is one of the easiest lazy mistakes / errors that you can do, is just not wanting to get more paint. You're like, I'm almost done, I can get enough, and then you do something goofy and just get the paint out. Okay, so I just put more blue out so that I can indicate where that jar lid is. And then I might drop some other colors in there. Looks a little darker in here. Let's just dab a couple little colors in there so it gets nice and dark in the middle. Where are my shadows? So put those in here and kind of give an idea of where that is on my sheet. I want a grayish neutral. So I'm gonna mix that in the middle, and then maybe I even have it around here. Right on the edge, like that. Okay, so I hope that it's 7:40. I'm doing pretty good. I hope that helps demystify flowers and roses a little bit. Really what you are looking at is, where are the darks, okay? Where are the lights? And making sure that your watercolors have a value range. You really just need a value range with your watercolors, so that your shadowed areas are darker, and where the edges of the petal, just look at it as light and darks. And that should really help you in painting flowers and whatnot. When you get to a point where you want to be really crazy, then you can just kind of throw some color down and see what happens. That's always another option too. And put more color down here and there. Now I'm getting crazy. See, end of. This is the fun stuff, is when you start to get more abstract. You know, can I go in and make a puddle? Maybe pull some colors out of that. And if I keep playing with this, what can I make? What can I create? Just playing. Not as refined as any of these, but boy, it's kind of fun to just put some color down and go for it. Kind of see what happens as it sits. I'll just let this dry and we'll take a look at it later. Okay, what can I pull out of that now? So one of the things we talked about in class 2 was using tissue or paper towels to pull color up. So I can go in here and go, okay, well, what if, see what I can do. I'm just playing, guys, just so you know. But I think that this is part of the beauty of watercolor, is that you all play and play the what if game. What if I do this? What happens then? See, I think that if I pull some of these colors up, then let this guy dry, and then go in back with some darks, this would be pretty amazing. Because already I can tell just looking at it, I like where it's going. Evil Dragon, are you trying to hijack my meager little users? I have so few viewers. Kind of cool. That has potential. There's definitely potential with this one. Now look how much more interesting it is. It's got all these really neat little marks and blends, and I just think it's a little less brush-like with what's going on with it. Still not well formed, but that's something that we can work on over time and lift into it. All right. Okay guys, I did pretty good. I know I keep threatening to get off of here and then I keep going one more brush stroke. That's kind of the way it works. It's kind of, I'm really enjoying getting a little wild and crazy with this right here and seeing what I can push and pull out of it. So it's really nice to play like this. And what's fun is like it doesn't look like much looking down on it, but then when you look at it from a distance, from like where you guys are looking at it, it starts to be a fun rose with a lot of interesting marks. So I think it's got some neat potential. All right, guys. Art Tip Tuesday. That's a wrap for roses. I wish you all a great week. Friday night we are working on the Kiss for Friday Night Dinos. Hopefully I will be more recovered and rested. I hope you have a fantastic week. Thank you guys so much for jumping in and tuning in. And I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.